Inside Sierra Leone's diamond mines, they found these gems. Sierra Leone, a land of beauty, resilience, and hidden treasure. Beneath its rich red soil and peaceful landscapes lies some of the most valuable gemstones in the world, diamonds. But these gems carry more than just sparkle. They carry a story of people, power, poverty, and perseverance. Today, we journey deep into the heart of Sierra Leone's diamond fields to witness how these precious stones are truly found, and what they cost beyond the dollar. Sierra Leone in the early 20th century was a land on the edge of a major transformation. A former British colony nestled along the West African coast, it was rich in untapped natural resources, gold, bauxite, iron ore, but it was the accidental discovery of diamonds in the 1930s that would change its fate forever. In 1930, near the town of Koidu in the Kono district, a British geologist working for the colonial government stumbled upon alluvial diamonds, stones that had eroded from primary kimberlite pipes and were now scattered in the riverbeds and gravel layers across the region. The find was small, but its implications were massive. What followed was a rush, not by local communities, but by foreign investors and companies, most notably the Sierra Leone Selection Trust, SLST, a British-controlled corporation that quickly secured exclusive mining rights over much of the country's diamond-rich territories for 99 years. With the ink of imperial contracts barely dry, large-scale commercial mining operations began. These were no small undertakings. SLST established tightly guarded compounds, imported European engineers, and developed sophisticated sorting stations. Their aim was simple: extract as many high-value diamonds as possible with maximum efficiency. And yet, outside the fences of SLST, another kind of mining had already begun, quiet, crude, and human-powered. Local Sierra Leoneans, many of whom had long relied on subsistence farming, began to dig for diamonds using whatever they had: wooden shovels, iron pans, pickaxes, and palm-woven baskets. They worked the same alluvial deposits in riverbeds and pits, operating independently or in small groups. These early miners would become the forerunners of Sierra Leone's artisanal mining sector, a labor-intensive but accessible practice that would continue for generations. Unlike the mechanized, capital-intensive industrial mines run by the British, artisanal mining relied solely on human grit, intuition, and relentless effort. Historically, these miners operated in a legal gray zone. The colonial government passed laws to criminalize illegal mining, but in practice, it was impossible to police the thousands of diggers across the remote bushlands of Kono, Kenema, and Bo. The cat-and-mouse game between officials and local miners became a staple of life. Some miners bribed officials to keep digging, others smuggled gems across borders into Guinea or Liberia, trading them in secret markets. The tools of the time were simple but symbolically powerful. A handmade sieve wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of independence. A tattered map drawn in charcoal marked not just locations, but dreams. And a tin pan full of river gravel held more potential than a year's harvest. What's critical to understand is that the diamond industry wasn't just economic, it was deeply political and social. Access to land and water was now a contest. Those who could mine could make a living, but the wealth was lopsided. While British elites and foreign executives reaped the rewards, the miners themselves lived on the margins, often working under harsh conditions, with no safety nets, insurance, or rights. Even back then, diamonds were already shaping class divisions. They were being used as leverage, as tools of power, not just adornment. The infrastructure around the mines was built to extract, not to develop. Roads led from mines to ports, not to schools or clinics. This legacy of exploitation, of exclusion, would not only define Sierra Leone's relationship with diamonds during colonial rule, but also sow the seeds of the unrest and inequality that would erupt decades later. Today, as we look back at those black and white photographs, of shirtless men ankle-deep in mud, of women panning rivers with infants tied to their backs, of company guards watching from towers, we are reminded that the story of diamonds in Sierra Leone began not with glitter, but with grit. The process of finding diamonds in Sierra Leone begins with the land itself, the red earth, the muddy rivers, the gravel beds hidden just beneath the surface. Here, the tools are few, but the labor is immense. Men, often working in small cooperative groups, begin their day by selecting a site, usually near rivers or former mining pits where diamonds have historically been found. The digging is entirely manual. Without machines, these miners rely on sheer physical strength. Shovels, pickaxes, and iron bars cut into the soil, removing layers of overburden to reach the gravel layer, the level where diamonds naturally settle over centuries due to erosion. This layer is scooped into buckets or headpans and carried to a nearby water source. The washing begins, a rhythmic motion of sieving gravel through handmade wooden pans or metal meshes. With every swirl, mud and lighter stones are rinsed away, revealing what remains, heavier materials, and if fortune allows, a diamond. It's a task that demands patience and a keen eye. A diamond, in its rough form, doesn't always gleam. It may look like an ordinary crystal or a piece of broken glass. Experienced miners know what to look for: a faint glint, a sharp edge, the way a stone catches light. Each pan washed holds a sliver of hope. Days can pass with nothing but sand and sweat. But one good find, even a single carat, can change everything, if only for a moment. And yet, more often than not, the promise of diamonds keeps miners coming back, not for riches, but for survival, dignity, and the chance to hold something precious born from the soil beneath their feet. This is the most delicate moment in a diamond miner's day, the sieving and inspection stage, where hours of intense labor come down to mere seconds of truth. Every swirl of muddy water holds the possibility of a life-changing find, yet most passes end in disappointment. As the water rushes through the sieve, the miner's eyes scan the swirling gravel with focused precision. The rough gravel, a mix of quartz, clay, sand, and other minerals, settles at the bottom of the pan. What remains are only the densest fragments, and if luck favors them, among them could be a diamond. At this point, experience becomes everything. Diamonds in their natural, uncut form don't always glitter. They are rarely the sparkling gems seen in jewelry. Instead, they can appear cloudy, yellowish, or even dull. Some resemble broken glass. Others mimic quartz so closely that only trained eyes can tell the difference. Miners have developed a few key tricks over time. A real diamond, when rolled between the fingers, has a unique sharpness to its edges, a texture and shape distinct from surrounding gravel. The most experienced diggers often use a small torch or flashlight, or even a smartphone light, to enhance visibility. Under direct light, a diamond may reflect a faint rainbow prism or cast a particular gleam, helping to distinguish it from imposters. In remote mining sites where sunlight is limited, such as during early mornings or late afternoons, torches become indispensable. Some miners even wait until dusk to examine their pans under firelight, believing the lower contrast reveals hidden reflections better than full daylight. Once a potential diamond is spotted, the miner isolates it carefully, sometimes with tweezers, more often just with their fingers, and places it into a small cloth pouch or tin container. In some mining camps, these stones are immediately shown to local middlemen or dealers who roam the fields looking to buy directly from diggers. But many miners, unsure of the stone's true value, hold onto it, either in hope of getting a better price or simply out of caution. This step, identification and handling, carries significant risk. Mistaking quartz for diamond can result in embarrassment and wasted time. But misidentifying a real diamond as worthless gravel is an even greater loss. Inexperienced diggers have been known to throw valuable stones back into the water unknowingly. Others have sold genuine diamonds for the price of a meal. To avoid this, miners often consult one another. Peer evaluation is common. Miners will compare stones, argue over appearances, and ask for second opinions. In some camps, local elders or retired diggers are respected as stone men, unofficial gemologists trusted to spot true value based on decades of field experience. But even if a diamond is found and confirmed, it is far from the end of the journey. The stone must still be sold, usually without access to scales, certificates, or formal markets. Valuation is done by eye, and negotiation favors those with knowledge, not always the miner. And so, the sieving process, deceptively simple at first glance, becomes a symbol of both hope and inequality. It's the miner's moment of truth, when every backbreaking hour of digging, every bucket of mud, every calloused hand, and every sunburned day comes down to a single swirl of gravel in water. It is in this swirl that a miner's fortune may lie. But more often than not, what they find is not just a stone, but a reflection of the system they work within, one where brilliance is rare, value is uncertain, and truth must be inspected under torchlight. Mining is not just a job, it's a way of life. Families build their lives around these fields. Children help carry buckets. Women sell food to the miners. There are no guarantees, no contracts, no safety nets. Some miners work under supporters, men who fund operations in exchange for a share of profits. Others mine independently, hoping for freedom and fortune. But there's a quiet resilience here. Despite the hardships, there's dignity in the work, pride in the search, and community in the struggle. The same diamonds that once promised prosperity for Sierra Leone would become the very fuel for one of Africa's most brutal conflicts. In 1991, civil war erupted in Sierra Leone, a conflict that would last over a decade and leave over 50,000 people dead, with countless more mutilated, orphaned, or displaced. At the heart of this chaos was control over diamond-rich territories. Rebel factions, most notoriously the Revolutionary United Front, RUF, seized mining regions in the Kono and Kenema districts. These diamonds were not used to build the nation, they were traded for weapons. Arms were flown in from Eastern Europe and the Middle East, and in exchange, rough, untraceable diamonds were smuggled out through Liberia and Guinea. These became known as blood diamonds, or conflict diamonds. The war quickly descended into unimaginable horror. Towns were burned. Villages were emptied. Children, some as young as 9, were abducted, drugged, and turned into child soldiers. They were forced to fight, kill, and in many cases, mine diamonds at gunpoint. Every sparkle in the global diamond market during those years potentially masked a river of blood. International traders turned a blind eye, and luxury markets continued to profit while Sierra Leoneans paid the real price, in lives, and lost futures. It wasn't until the early 2000s, after global pressure mounted, that serious attention was given to the ethics of diamond sourcing. But for those who lived through the war, the scars remain. The diamonds did not cause the war, but they enabled it, financed it, and extended its devastation. And their story is a powerful reminder that the value of a gem is not measured in carats alone, but in the human cost it carries. This is where the miner's journey meets the market, where rough diamonds, freshly pulled from the earth, are passed from dusty hands into the global trade pipeline. But in Sierra Leone, that handoff is far more complex and far less equitable than it may appear. Once a miner discovers a rough diamond, after hours, sometimes days of digging and washing, the next challenge begins: selling it. But most artisanal miners in Sierra Leone don't have access to formal marketplaces or gemological expertise. Instead, they sell directly to a web of middlemen, also known as dealers or supporters, who dominate the diamond economy from behind the scenes. The process begins with weighing. A small handheld scale, often battery-powered or mechanical, is used to measure the diamond in carats. But weighing is only part of the process. The real value of a diamond lies in its quality, and here's where knowledge becomes power. Most miners, especially in rural areas, cannot accurately assess the clarity, color, or shape of a rough diamond. They lack the tools, microscopes, grading charts, proper lighting, and they lack the training. This gives middlemen an overwhelming advantage. Dealers, some trained through years of informal trade and others backed by connections to larger buyers, can quickly spot value that a miner might miss. They examine a rough stone's potential. Will it cut into one large, flawless gem? Or several smaller ones? Will it yield a clean, colorless diamond, or a cloudy, industrial-grade fragment? The answers to these questions can mean the difference between $100 and $10,000, yet most miners never know what they truly hold. For many miners, the offer made is taken immediately. There are no negotiations, no second opinions. A miner who hesitates risks losing the deal, or worse, being excluded from future opportunities. It's a system built on urgency and dependency. And in many cases, the dealer is not a stranger. In Sierra Leone's artisanal diamond world, relationships between miners and buyers are often deeply entangled. Many miners work under supporters, wealthier individuals who finance mining operations by providing tools, food, or even lodging. In return, supporters claim a significant portion, sometimes 50% or more, of any diamonds found. This informal financing system binds miners into cycles of debt and obligation, making it nearly impossible to operate independently. Some supporters are fair and transparent. Others exploit the miners' desperation, keeping records that are never shared or explained. It's not uncommon for a miner to hand over a diamond and walk away with just a fraction of its worth, told simply, "It's not a good stone." Without certification, market access, or legal protection, miners often have no choice but to accept. The result is a market in which the wealth extracted from Sierra Leone's soil rarely stays in Sierra Leone's hands. Most of the diamonds bought by middlemen are then transported to regional hubs, towns like Kenema, Bo, or Freetown. There, they are sold again, often at a markup, to larger dealers who have licenses to export. From there, they may move on to international buyers in Antwerp, Dubai, Tel Aviv, or Mumbai. By the time a diamond is auctioned in a luxury market or set in a high-end ring, it may have changed hands 5, 10, or even 20 times, each seller earning more than the one before. The original miner, the one who labored in the pit, knee-deep in water and risk, is almost always at the bottom of that chain. This vast disparity has led to calls for reform. Over the past 2 decades, the Sierra Leonean government and international NGOs have attempted to introduce more transparency into the trade. One key initiative was the establishment of the Government Gold and Diamond Office, GGDO, and later the National Minerals Agency, NMA, responsible for regulating the industry, issuing licenses, and monitoring exports. There is also the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme, KPCS, a global initiative started in 2003 to prevent conflict diamonds from entering the legitimate market. Under the Kimberley process, every legally exported rough diamond from Sierra Leone must be accompanied by a certificate confirming it is conflict-free. But while these reforms have made progress at the international level, the ground reality for artisanal miners remains largely unchanged. Many still operate informally, outside the regulated system, either due to bureaucracy, lack of awareness, or fear of taxation. Some success stories have emerged. In certain districts, miners have formed cooperatives that allow them to pool resources, share equipment, and negotiate better prices. NGOs have stepped in to provide training on valuation, record keeping, and legal compliance. These efforts, though small, are planting seeds for a fairer, more inclusive diamond economy. Yet, challenges persist. Many buyers still prefer to deal in cash to avoid taxes. Some diamonds are smuggled out of the country entirely, bypassing both regulation and community benefit. The government continues to lose millions in potential revenue, money that could fund infrastructure, schools, and healthcare in the very regions where the diamonds are mined. At the heart of it all is a miner, often young, often poor, standing in the hot sun, watching his diamond, perhaps the only one he'll find for months, being weighed on a scale. He wonders, will this one be enough to feed my family? To pay school fees? To cover debts? He'll likely never know what happens to it, whether it's turned into a dazzling engagement ring in New York or stashed in a safe in Dubai. What he knows is this: once it leaves his hand, it's no longer his. The trade continues, the profits grow, but the miner, the first link in the diamond's journey, remains the most undervalued. In the diamond trade, value is measured in carats and clarity. But there's another measure, one that rarely makes it to auction blocks: the value of the hands that unearthed it. Until those hands are honored, the system remains incomplete. I will leave links to some of the best diamond testers you should buy on Amazon in this video's description. Today, the landscape of diamond mining in Sierra Leone is slowly evolving. The days of total lawlessness in the trade are being challenged, not entirely erased, but steadily replaced with efforts toward regulation, transparency, and community empowerment. At the forefront of this transformation are a mix of government agencies, international watchdogs, and grassroots organizations working tirelessly to rewrite the rules of the game. The first visible sign of this change appears at government checkpoints. These roadblocks, often positioned on routes between mining districts and export hubs, designed to track and control the movement of diamonds. Here, officials from the National Minerals Agency, NMA, or the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources inspect transporters' licenses, cross-reference declarations, and examine certificates. Their goal? to ensure that every rough diamond crossing Sierra Leone's borders has been legally mined, properly taxed, and recorded. This isn't just a national concern, it's a global one. Sierra Leone is a participant in the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme, an international system established in 2003 to combat the trade in conflict diamonds. Without proper documentation, a stone cannot legally be exported. Inside the mining zones themselves, licensed operations are now more common than before. These can range from small cooperative pits to industrial-scale concessions. Licenses are granted through a formal application process and come with responsibilities, including environmental impact assessments, fair labor practices, and community development contributions. However, acquiring a license is still a challenge for many small-scale miners. The process involves paperwork, fees, and sometimes long delays, obstacles that informal miners can't always overcome. This has led to a continued gray area, where unlicensed operations still thrive beneath the surface of the official system. That's where NGOs and civil society groups step in. Organizations like Network Movement for Justice and Development, NMJD, and PACT have been working in the diamond regions to bridge this gap. They offer miners training on safe extraction techniques, proper stone evaluation, and legal rights. These groups also introduce technology and data into places where guesswork has long dominated. Mobile apps now allow miners to compare stone quality, check market prices, and identify buyers offering fairer terms. In some areas, they are introducing blockchain-based tracing systems, giving each diamond a digital identity from mine to market. Equally important is the work these NGOs do with the communities themselves. Villages that once felt excluded from the wealth beneath their feet are now becoming part of the conversation. Through community development agreements, mining companies are expected to contribute directly to local infrastructure, building schools, wells, clinics, and roads. The impact is uneven but visible. In some districts, these partnerships are giving rise to better education and healthcare access. Still, it's not a perfect system. Corruption, poor enforcement, and economic desperation continue to fuel illegal mining. Some miners distrust government officials, citing years of neglect or abuse. And in remote areas, many still see informal trade as the only viable livelihood. But there is progress. A new generation of miners, better informed, more organized, and increasingly vocal, is rising. They are advocating not just for access to land, but for ownership of their labor, dignity in their work, and a fairer share of the value they produce. Sierra Leone's diamond industry is not yet a success story. But it is a changing story, one where old wounds are being acknowledged, new systems are being tested, and the future is beginning to shine with more than just gemstones. The story of Sierra Leone's diamond mines cannot be fully told without the voices of those who live it, the miners, their families, and the communities shaped by this centuries-old struggle for survival and success. I've been mining since I was 15, says Musa, a father of 4 from the Kono district. When I started, I had nothing but my hands and a shovel. I didn't even know what a diamond looked like. I learned from my uncle. It's hard work, but when you find something, it feels like a blessing from the earth. Musa, like many others, works in an artisanal mining group with 6 others. They split whatever is found, and their days begin at sunrise, digging through mud and gravel for hours before the sieving begins. It's not just about money, it's about survival. Sometimes we go days, even weeks, without finding anything, he adds. But we still come back. We have no choice. Just meters from the pit, life continues. Mariama, Musa's wife, sells rice and cassava to the miners. She remembers when the mines first opened in her village. At first, we thought it would bring us wealth, she says. But many women here are still struggling. If our husbands don't find anything, we go to bed hungry. There's no support, no clinic, no school. The mine gives us work, but not much else. This sentiment echoes across Sierra Leone's mining communities. For decades, diamonds have promised riches, but rarely delivered them to those closest to the source. Chief Kamara, a respected elder in the Bow region, has spent the last 10 years advocating for fairer deals between mining companies and local residents. Our land has value, he says firmly. But for too long, outsiders have taken our diamonds and left us with holes in the ground. We want transparency. We want education for our children. We want clinics and clean water. These are not luxuries, they are our rights. Chief Kamara's community now insists on development agreements with any licensed operator. They demand that a percentage of profits go into rebuilding the roads, constructing boreholes, and supporting local schools. It's a small step, but a significant one. Change is also being led by a younger generation. Fatmata, 25, leads a youth mining cooperative with over 30 members. They work collectively, pool resources, and use mobile apps to check rough diamond prices, reducing their dependency on middlemen. We want to do things differently, she says. We're tired of being cheated. Knowledge is power. When we understand the market, we can demand better prices and better treatment. These young miners are challenging a system long skewed in favor of buyers and exporters. They want fairer trade, sustainable practices, and accountability from all sides. Amidst the hardship, education remains a beacon of hope. Mr. Sori, a local teacher, runs a school for children of miners. Some study by candlelight, others arrive in torn uniforms, but they come with ambition. They tell me they want to become doctors, engineers, even lawyers, he smiles. Not all want to follow their parents into the pits. They want more. And that gives me hope. These are the stories behind the stones. Raw, real, and human. While diamonds may symbolize wealth and luxury across the world, here, they represent resilience, struggle, community, and most of all, the unbreakable will of those who continue to hope for a better tomorrow. As the golden light of sunset washes over the village, a calm settles across the land. The echoes of digging tools fade. The muddy river quiets. Miners, weary and dust-covered, make their way home, their bodies heavy from the day's labor, and their minds full of silent hope. This is the closing rhythm of life in Sierra Leone's diamond fields. The work is exhausting, uncertain, and often unrewarding, yet it continues, day after day. Because here, a diamond is more than just a gemstone, it is a symbol of possibility. For many, the end of the day brings not only physical rest, but emotional reconnection. Children run out to greet their fathers. Laughter spills through the village pathways. Women prepare evening meals over open fires. There is joy, even in hardship, a quiet dignity in the routine. Despite decades of struggle, exploitation, and lost wealth, these communities endure. Their strength is not only in the stones they seek, but in the bonds they share. Here, survival is a collective effort, and community is everything. The sunset marks more than the end of a workday, it marks another chapter in a larger story. A story of miners who believe that one day, the value of their labor will be recognized. That one day, a diamond's worth will not only be measured in carats, but in its capacity to change lives locally. These people are not just workers in the global gem supply chain. They are parents, teachers, entrepreneurs, and leaders, striving not for luxury, but for fairness. For access to education, to healthcare, to safe water. For dignity in their work. As night falls over the village, stars slowly begin to twinkle above, mirroring the sparkle of the diamonds hidden deep within the earth. And perhaps, like those stars, the dreams of this community will one day rise above the dust, the mud, and the hardship, and shine where the world can finally see them. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, share, and leave comments about your thoughts regarding Inside Sierra Leone Diamond Mine story.
Subscribe for more videos like this.